How's it going, everyone? Hopefully you're all doing well. Today we're going to be talking about the Skoda T56, the newest premium tank that has been introduced into this game. There is a lot of debate around this tank. Hopefully I can go and address all of that in this video. Some people say it's OP, some people say it's just another tank. Hopefully we can address all of that. As I said, I did make a first impressions last week, so if you want to go and watch that, you can do. And I would recommend you watch that first, just to see how the tank just plays when I was completely new to it for my first few games. But now I've played 28 games in total, which I would say is enough to get a good feel of the tank. As you can see, I've been playing this about 3k DPG with about 500 assistance, which is very, very good for me. Like, for a tier 8 to get 3k is very good. Let's go and take a look at TanksGG and we'll get into the review. Alright, so here we are in tanks.gg. We have the Skoda, we have the new TNH 105/1000, and I have equipped the autoloader on it, so that these are very, very similar now. The T77 and also the Ice-3A. Ice-3A, another one of those tanks that came into the game and people thought it was completely broken OP, and to some respects it is, but we'll get onto that a little bit later on. So the Skoda, DPM, it has the best, even though it's an autoloader. Like 2k DPM, it would have more for this tank if we chose, say, like this, again 2k DPM, but it's using a single shot gun. So I want to use the autoloader because it's more similar to the Skoda T56. We do also have the T77, which has abysmal DPM, but we do know that it does get 1k, output for the autoloader. Now, penetration-wise, it is the worst. 208 pen is not good. You can fire premium, and it goes up to 248, which is good, but against tier 10s, even 248 pen, you're going to struggle quite badly. Considering that this is a heavy tank, and you're going to be fighting other heavy tanks, you need to really know what the armor layout is on the other tanks, because if you come against an E100, there's not a lot you're going to do. Now, the alpha damage, 460, 100 more alpha damage per shell than the T77. This alpha damage should not be this high. I'm going to say that right now. 460 alpha, while it's great, and it's great for the person that's playing it, as soon as you're against it, it's a joke. To be able to do 920 damage in 3.5 seconds is too good. You can high roll and do over 1k in 3.5 seconds. That means that you meet any of these, you have just taken off 2/3 of their hit points. That's very worrying. I don't know who came up with this idea and how it passed testing, but 460 is too much. It doesn't need to be that good. You could have just made it so it's like exactly the same as this, 320 alpha. You just give it a little bit of a better reload time, and then you call it a day, right? Like, you could have just done that. But no, 460 alpha, where we get, Jagdpanzer E100 kind of alpha damage within 3.5 seconds. And to be fair, it's sometimes even better than having, a single shot, because even if you miss your first shot, you then have that backup 460. And against tier 6s, this is not fair. Tier 6s, you can just one shot, or one clip. One shot is going to do half their health, and the next shot is going to kill them. And then you combine it with the fact that the reload time is very, very similar to the TNH, which gets 320 alpha. It's just, I don't know what they were thinking. At least with the T77, although this DPM is awful and it doesn't need to have this much of a long reload, at least with this, you do get that long reload afterwards. It takes 4 seconds and it's got 3 shells, and you do 1080 alpha for your total clip potential. This, you can just rush up, find someone that's isolated, do 3.5 seconds, 1k alpha, and just go back off and hide. So while I don't agree with this, this is how it is. It should have never been introduced with 460 alpha. I don't know what they were thinking. Even if this was 390, it'll be better. I don't know. This is the most overpowered thing about the tank. Nothing else, right? Because you can just spam gold with 248 pen and your own tier. You're basically a tier 10 tank. And I know some of you are going to say, not really, because, you know, you don't have the health or anything like that. You are. Like, that is tier 10 level, like, alpha. You don't believe me? There you go. That's the tier 10, 980 in 2 seconds. If not tier 10, then tier 9. Oh look, you actually get more alpha than the tier 9. It's just, I honestly don't understand what they were thinking when they done this. And that is the main reason why it's OP. It's just because of the gun. Nothing else. The armor on this tank is not outstanding. It has a cupola. It has a weak spot that you can pen. Albeit, yes, sure, it's not a guaranteed 100% pen with standard rounds, but it's there. I don't know. I'm not gonna go on about it anymore, but that is the main reason why it's so strong. Caliber being 130, you don't have to worry about absolutely anyone that is along the Swedish TD line. You can overmatch all of them. Also, being 130, you can actually overmatch a lot of stuff that you meet. Nearly everything you can overmatch. Obviously, you need 152mm guns and stuff like that for some of the targets, but a lot of the stuff that you will meet, you can actually just overmatch, just straight up. Engine decks, for example, anything like that, you can just overmatch it. Chrysler engine deck, just overmatch it. That's just how it is. 130mm gun is really, really nice for overmatching stuff. Now, you will notice that I have glossed over some of the stuff in this, unlike my other reviews. If you want to look at all of them, you can do. I'm just going to point out the main ones to save you some time and me some time and get to the gameplay faster. So potential damage is 13k, ammo capacity of 30, which isn't great. That's the one kind of downside, is the ammo capacity. Now, for the gun handling though, this is okay gun handling. It's not great. It's not brilliant. 2.8 seconds aim time is pretty bad, and 0.4 dispersion is pretty bad as well. But these dispersion values, when you're on the move, the tank traverse and the turret traverse are decent enough. Especially when we get onto the equipment in a bit, we'll talk about this more. But decent enough compared to everything else as well. Standard kind of heavy tank dispersion. It does have -8 degrees of gun depression. However, even though it's -8, it's not some type of... It's not as much of a ridgeline god as you would think it is. Because it does have a weak spot. And you can pen it. And it's not got that -10 kind of, god tier ridgeline tank kind of gameplay going for it. -8 is fine. And you can do most things. Go and hold down on a ridgeline. But don't expect miracles when it comes to ridgelines with this tank. Now, the mobility, and this is where it kind of falls off a cliff. It's not very fast. Turbo on this thing will help you, but it'll only help you to a certain level. Because if you look at, say, the T77 or even the counterpart in the tech tree, the counterpart goes at 50. Like the TNH goes at 50 kilometers an hour. You can't get that even with Bond Turbo. And then you combine that with the fact that it doesn't have a great power to weight ratio. It's not got the IS-3 power to weight ratio, but it's still not great. Yeah, it's not super fast. It can be a bit sluggish. And you definitely do feel like it is a heavy tank. Now, for the armor, you probably have a look at this and think, yeah, that's not great. I mean, you're trading blows with the tier 8 counterpart, and also even trading blows with the IS-3A. But let's go and have a little look at the armor model. Okay, so here we are with the tank model. Now, ignore the black parts over here, and also when I use this, for some reason it mistakes the color. It's because I turned off GPU acceleration on the browser, but this is, you should be able to see what I mean. So it's around about 180 to 190, also around about 170 in some areas, meaning that the whole of this tank is very, very annoying for tier 6s. You're not really going to be penning this thing every single time in the hole, right? Like, even if you're head on, you go for the lower plate, you're not going to be penning it. It's going to be like a 50-50 or like 40% chance, which is a slight issue. And it does make it very overpowered against tier 6s. And then when you try and angle like this, for example, let's say that you were angled like this, so that there is decent ricochet angle here, as you can see. And this is all an instant ricochet on the lower plate. It is that well angled that when you angle to side scraping this thing, it actually becomes almost an instant ricochet. Meaning that you could technically over angle it and come out at an angle. So let's say that you're poking a corner and you angle out like this. So you just want to quickly peek and shoot someone like that. Chances are they'll probably aim for your lower plate, right? Or they aim for the track wheel if they are a little bit more experienced in the game. But if you meet someone that's not as experienced and they go for the lower plate because they think, oh yeah, like, you know, that's always the weakest part, you're just going to bounce. And then this becomes about 200 millimeters thick. So it's very troll, is what I'm saying. So you can side scrape like this. If you're a little bit taller than it as well, you're actually going to have kind of worse luck with the lower plate. But if you're taller than it, you can just pen the upper plate. But yeah, it's also kind of bows outwards at the back here. So there's lots of things about this armor that are just troll. Like, you can't just shoot the side of this thing if it's side scraping because it will just bounce no matter where you try and shoot it. You can overmatch the engine deck, and you can also go for the cupola. So the cupola is around about 180, 170, around there, depending on where you're aiming at. But it's not a super easy shot to hit, and if you do use gold, obviously it's a lot easier. However, if you're using standard rounds with only about 208 pen, 210, 200 around there, you're still going to be struggling sometimes. So just make sure that you are aiming for the very, very center that you can see. No matter where you go, just make sure that you're always aiming in the middle from where you're positioned against the tank, and you should be okay. You can go through, if you use gold, you can go through right here. If we actually have a look at the visual model, then you can actually see that there is a little periscope here, or viewport, and you can pen it with roughly 230 millimeters. So when you do come against people that do have high pen, be careful of that. But everywhere else is generally quite well armored. If we just switch back to live, it's pretty decent. You got the heat shields around there as well, which are going to add additional armor. You can't get overmatched at the top. It's a solid all-round tank for armor. Now, for the health of the tank, it is 1.5k, which is about average for tier 8s. You can obviously boost that up with HP boost and with the new field modifications. So you're not really losing out anything there. Camo-wise, view range is 370, which is joint best across all of them. You'd never really feel like you need to put coated optics on this. Even if you have, let's say you're running fire extinguisher and stuff like that, there's no real need to use coated optics, especially in heavy tanks, right? Like heavy tanks, you're not really always looking to have the most view range. You just kind of want to increase your combat capacity and also your survivability. So view range is not that important, but it's nice to have a decent amount, unlike the IS-3A. Now, moving on to the equipment, and I have tested quite a few things out with this tank. I first tried to use HP boost, and it really does help. However, the way that I think that everyone should have it set up to get the most out of the tank is you would use an improved aiming, vents, whether it be bounty, normal, whatever, it doesn't matter, and then a V-stab, right? You can use normal versions of this because you can also get a firepower slot on your secondary. So you could use vents on the first one to get the bonus, and then you could use improved aiming on the second one, like I do, to get the bonus as well. And then you can just use normal V-stab. It doesn't have to be bounty, it doesn't have to be bonded, it doesn't have to be, you know, special. That is what I'd recommend. You can interchange this out for, say, a turbo or something like that. And then you could put in, obviously, mobility slot instead of a firepower slot if you're using field modifications. So there are different ways of building the tank. But the one that I would recommend is to use improved aiming. I just feel that it lacks in accuracy the most. And anything that you can do to get this gun to hit more often is a benefit. As I was saying with the view range, if you do get Brothers in Arms and then you put situational awareness and recon, the view range altogether is not that bad. 412 for a heavy tank is okay, it's good enough. And if you use food as well, it goes up to 431. So it's good enough for me. If you want more, then I don't know, you can swap out, but I don't really think coated optics is worth it on a heavy tank. Okay, so this is how I am going to be having my setup. I do have bonded vents and the improved aiming on this on the mobility or mobility slash firepower slot. If you do go into here, I have the lightweight suspension, so it will increase my whole traverse speed and also suspension durability at the expense of slightly slower maintaining speed across terrains. I find that this is okay because it needs to be a little bit faster in the turning, and also to have a little bit more suspension durability doesn't hurt, especially when you're getting tracked and stuff. Now you can't actually see, but behind me there is the improved aiming that I use. So this is giving me 0.33, whereas if I used this it would go up to 0.35, but at the cost of an aim time. I don't think that aim time is as important as getting your circle size down and your accuracy better. So that is what I choose, because as long as you have good dispersion, the aim time doesn't matter too much. Yes, it does matter. However, if the bloom doesn't get too big, you should be fine. And finally down here, because the tank doesn't really have a lot of view range as standard, I did put 3% to view range. A lot of you are going to be saying, why didn't you get this? Because it does minus 10% to stun duration and additional stun, or 15% to additional stun. That is very, very kind of situational when you get hit by artillery, and most of the time you can just get rid of the stun just with a simple medkit press. However, the 3% to view range, because it already has pretty poor view range, I want to boost it. And I don't just want to leave it, because if I leave it, then it's not going to get to that magical 446 if I use bounty bond vents. So I think that the trade-off of having slightly more stun time when it happens to have permanently more view range is worth it. And here we can reassign. You can either choose the firepower or mobility slot as you choose. And of course, maxed out, you get 3% to hit points. So that does mean that we have 1,550 hit points and a little bit better durability suspension. For most of my games, I was using 18-10-2 loadout, which is, I think, more than enough. You get 10 for when you meet tier 10s, and you have 18 for when you meet everyone else. Now for the crew, this is what I'm using. Obviously, 6 cents, Brothers in Arms, the standard stuff, situational awareness, recon. You need them. I'm also using Deadeye because 130 caliber gun, it's going to be quite nice to get in crits, especially for the crit mission that you need for 279. So hopefully I can do that in this tank eventually. A few close ones, but not yet. So yeah, safe stowage and intuition. Intuition, again, is a very, very important perk on this tank, as with any autoloader, to quickly switch out between premium and non-premium, or even HE. Alright, let's go and play some games. Right, we're going to go to the left, and we're going to try and get control over this side of the map. The reason being is because I don't really want to the thing is, you go to the middle, it's just going to be a bit of a tricky situation. Because you're going to meet the tier 9s and you're going to meet people that you can't really pen reliably, at least with 208. Whereas, at least if I'm using, you know, over here, 208 pen should be more than enough. T49 is pushing. 704 hasn't been spotted yet, which is a bit annoying. I think the 704 might be going this way. Well, we're about to find out either way. One in. Two in. And he's dead already. Pantera gives one to me. But he hits the track for the other one. And we have got here safely. Ish. We only took one shot from the lava. So I would take that as a win. And now we just have to be a little bit careful. That's unlucky. Can't really see the 704. Unlucky. Went a little bit too high and hit his turret, I think, for both shells. Or one of them hit his tracks. But it's a good first few clips and establishing ourselves in the game. But this alpha really is a bit too good. There we go. One of them went in. It's as much as we can hope for, right? If our first shot missed. I don't really know where our first shot went. Now, the main thing that I'm worried about at the moment is the 704. The 704 can do a lot of damage to me. Go for the Capola. We don't hit it, but let's be honest, that's a very, very hard shot to hit. The only problem with those posts is that they absorb shells, so I wanted that shell to actually go through it and try and do a bit more damage, but it's not going to happen. However, we do reload in 5 seconds, so hopefully we can do something. I think the guard's peeking. Mill 1 as well. Slightly annoying. Can we see this in Mill 1? 1. Both of them went in. That's actually really surprising. 208 pen. I guess it's because we are above him, and his does slope down like that, so we're basically shooting a flat surface. But at the moment, the most important thing is just to conserve our hit points. We don't want to be overly aggressive. We don't want to be pushing stuff that we don't need to be pushing. Because we've done a decent amount to start off with. The RT is probably going to be focusing us now because we are the next people over here. Unless they go for that. So, yeah. Actually, you know what? We're going to try and shoot this Pantera. Because he might try and run away from the IS-6. I don't really have a clean shot. Okay, well, he's dead. Unfortunately, our IS-6 is dead as well, but nothing we can really do about that now. 53 TP. Hello, friend. See, RT is over there. Yep, 410. Artie doesn't do any damage anymore. Don't worry about it. I will take that. We should have really healed our stun first of all. But it's fine. Honestly, it's okay. Guard is dead now as well, which means that the Emil is the only person that we can really be fearing. one into the tracks. He repairs. And we put one into the 430 at the same time. I'm actually going to go forwards here. I know. Okay, he's just going to go for me. I was hoping that RT wasn't going to hit me, but not a lot we can do. Scorpion G at the back of the map as well. Need to be slightly careful of him. I'm actually going to load a HE round and try and blind fire him. So with the fantastic, amazing perk of intuition, we reload in, what, 3 seconds, 4 seconds? Yeah. And... I don't know. I didn't really get to see the second one, if it splashed or not. Right, so my only issue now is that... Did we... We hit something. We definitely hit someone there. My issue now is that I can't really peek here safely. And say, like, I want to shoot the 430 or the UDES or... Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. Just YOLO forwards. Just doesn't even care about what's around the corner. He will just YOLO past everyone. And my team is not there to support me. Nice. I mean, I guess we should have just stayed here. But I can't predict that this guy's just going to come around the corner that much just to shoot me. Like, he doesn't know where the M103 and the Peugeot are. But yeah, he still just does it. I don't know. It's a stupid play by him. I don't know. Let's see who we hit at the back of the map. Alright, 3.5. So, what did we hit? That done barely any damage. Ah, this guy. So we hit this guy with HE, I'm guessing then. Instead of the Scorpion at the back. So yeah, 3.5k damage. You just see, it's just not... It's not a tier 8 gun. It's just not. Like, the only thing that's tier 8 about it is the pen. And if you know where to aim, even that's not really an issue. Let's go and play another game, and we'll talk more about it. Right, so we're on Murovanka. Not bad. Ammunition is empty. That's good. Yeah. This tank. Oh, some people say that it is just... The thing is, it is OP. But the only balancing factor of it is that it will meet tier 9 and 10. And when it does, it doesn't really have the pen to be able to deal with them. So, yeah. If you fire nothing but gold in this thing, it's OP. Like, 248 pen, you can do more than enough in most situations. There's very rare situations, like when you're fighting a mouse or something, for example, where it's not enough. So, ooh, can we actually shoot this guy? You know what? I'm actually just going to hide around here for a bit, I think. Because they're pushing quite aggressively. I don't know why. 208 pen is enough. But you get 208 pen, I think, on the Lance and C, right? And no one thinks that that's an awful tank. But the difference is that this thing has 460 alpha. That it can deliver 2 times that in very, very like limited amount of time. And 3.5 seconds is enough to be able to permatrack someone. Because you can shoot them once, they then go back or whatever, think that they're safe, and then you quickly fire again. So, yeah. It can be very, very hard hitting. What is going on in this game? This isn't good. I'm telling you right now, this is not good. I want to try and find a shot, but there's just not one there at the moment. Maybe I can get behind this house. This isn't going to end very well. And that bounces somehow. Really? I'm going to go for a reload. You actually still peek me? Okay. He doesn't know about this gun, but sure. Not everyone knows everything about this tank, I guess. This really isn't a good situation that we're in right now. Tried to go for the little shot at the end, but it's not going to happen. Maybe we try and kill the CLC. Have to wait a little bit. Oh, he's going to die anyway, I think. Maybe. Can't really afford to be wasting shots like this. Need to be doing damage, but what can you do? Are they actually backing off? I don't know. What are they doing? I guess they're going back to the base because they see that it's being overrun. What's spotting me then? Because it's not the Super Persian. So something else is spotting me. I guess the ELC's around here. But he has to be somewhere around here. I'm actually really surprised that they didn't just rush this. Man, that alpha damage is just so good. There's just nothing that he can do. That's a tier 9. Half health and it's just gone. I mean, I guess the ELC was around there, but now he's not, so... Can I shoot this guy? Really? Whatever. Not really a good game, but what can you do? I thought it was going to be a turbo game for them, and it ended up being a turbo game for us. Like, look at that, 15-5. Wow. What can you do? So yeah, 1.8k damage. Not a lot, but no one really gained a lot of damage anyway. Like the most, like this guy had a good game, this guy had an okay game. I suppose this guy had an okay game as well, but the rest of us, we didn't really do much. The enemy just kind of vanished. But I really thought that I was going to get overrun. Credit making wise, overall we made 151k out of those 2 games, so that's not too bad, and I'm not running any boosters at all. So it earned you money. That's a good thing. It's got a stupidly broken gun. That's a good thing. And the rest of it, the rest of the tank is just The thing is, if this thing had a normal gun, it would just be a normal balanced tank. It would be like the tier 8, which is not OP. It's actually probably a little bit under being OP, to be honest. Might need a little bit of a buff, the tier 8. But the gun is too good for this tank. Way too good. And 460 alpha with a 3.5 second interclip and 2 shells, dealing 920 average, is devastating. Not just to tier 8s, not just to tier 9s, but also to tier 10s. That will wipe out just under half, if not half, of a tier 10's health in 3.5 seconds. And it's a tier 8. Everything else about the tank is mediocre. It doesn't have a lot of view range. It doesn't have a great, gun handling. It doesn't have the greatest top speed or even just general power to weight. But the gun makes up for so much of that. And I'm just glad that it doesn't have stupidly high pen. If this had 300 pen, like some of the tanks that we're seeing now, like let's say that it has like the same pen as a Lerva, this would be very broken. Like if this had APCR at like 300 pen APCR, which is basically the tier 10 gun, this would be extremely broken. But I guess we just are happy that it's a mediocre 248, even though that's more than enough to deal with tier 10s majority of the time. So the only balancing factor really of this tank is that it meets tier 9 and 10. That's how I feel. Is it worth it? I'm not really going to say. Like, you can make your own mind up, right? I'd recommend it, but for you personally, is it worth it? That's not for me to say. It is a good tank though. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy this tank review. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as it does help me out greatly. And yeah, let me know what you think about this tank. It's an interesting one, right? Some people just think, yeah, it's just completely over the top, broken, end of story. But hopefully I showed you every single statistic of this tank and what is broken and what makes it so broken and why. And that the rest of the tank is not really that bad. It's not great either. But the gun, my opinion, definitely does. So yeah, hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in the next one.